There is Never Just One Cat by Jay Wilburn. Mark ran and closed the front door before Brandon's cats had a chance to escape. There was only supposed to be one cat. That was what Mark agreed to before Brandon left on his trip with his new girlfriend. Mark blamed her for the cat. Of course, Brandon would do whatever she wanted him to do. He hadn't dated much recently, and she was skinny, tattooed, and witchy. Most any guy would agree to a cat or anything else a girl like that demanded. Not Mark, but most people. There were two cats now. Both were completely white and the same size. Both had those snotty collections of mucus in the corners of their eyes. Both shed fur visibly in the air like dandelion down on the wind. Allergy fuel. Cats were walking weeds as far as Mark was concerned. Well, that's not nice. Cats are wonderful animals, aren't they? Brandon's girl and this cat thing. No. Mark decided mid-thought that he needed to let that go. It'd only create problems for their friendship if he dwelled on it. Mark didn't have many close friends. Maybe I need a cat. Mark sniffed at his own joke, and his eyes started to water. Do you guys have a spare I can borrow? Mark decided to call. It went to Brandon's voicemail. Mark said, 2 cats, man. I told you that if she talked you into one cat, that there would eventually be. Mark hung up on the call when the third cat, white cat, strolled into the living room. I don't even know you anymore, man, Mark whispered, not to the cats. Maybe he was talking to his friend, wherever he and the witchy girl were, miles and miles away. He decided just to feed them. Hopefully one bowl of dry food would be enough, because that's what Brandon had shown him when Mark agreed to this. He covered his nose and sneezed twice. There was already cat hair coating his sleeve, and all he had done was walk into the house. Mark tripped on his way to the kitchen. He bobbled on one foot, trying not to step on the multiple animals. The third cat was all white too, but smaller than the original Pester and what looked like the first cat's clone. He hadn't stepped on a cat, though. There was a pile of action figures scattered and chewed on the floor. These looked like special editions. They weren't so special anymore, not just torn from the packages. Gouges through their face and sculpted muscles cut through the layers of color down to the dark gray plastic underneath. They didn't make toys like that anymore. Their value could be counted in pennies now that they were chew toys. Serves you right for letting her talk you into 3 cats. 4 cats, my God. The fourth feline to reveal itself at least had some color to it. It was a bit larger and fatter than the 2 Pesters. It had a black ring around one eye that reminded Mark of a junkyard dog. Its front paws were black too. Other than that, it could have been a better fed version of the first cat the witchy girl had brought home and named Pester. The junkyard cat paced back and forth on the back of the sofa, purring loud enough for Mark to hear across the room. He stepped around the ruined action figures and said, "No pets or head scratches today. You guys are going to make my eyes swell shut." He took a moment to kick aside 2 of the shredded packages the figures had been extracted from with claws and teeth. He made sure to leave them out on the carpet where Brandon could see the price of becoming a cat person for himself. If the girl had talked him into getting rid of those collectibles instead of getting cats, Mark would probably like her more. A hissing sound turned him on his heels at the edge of the kitchen and out of his thoughts. A black cat with a white ring around one eye peered out at him from under the china cabinet and hissed one more time. This one could have been the negative image of the one on the couch. The hissing cat looked thinner, though. Mark glanced at the couch to find 2 additional cats staring at him. One was a small calico, the third was all white. He was tempted to say this was Pester, except it looked smaller and didn't have as many eye boogers. "How many cats?" he whispered as he walked backward into the kitchen. The dry food crunched under his heels. Mark felt like it was a bad idea, but he turned around from those multiple cats and stared in shock. The pantry door hung open and broken off its top hinge. Cats couldn't do that, could they? Several packages showed torn and chewed. There had to be at least 5 pounds of coffee scattered over the shelves and floor leading out of the old open pantry. The large cat food bag lay on its side and gutted, with the food scattered as far as the sliding glass back door. Other foil bags of soft treats lay open and empty in the rest of the mess. Mark used his phone to take pictures of all the damage around him and over the floors. He sent the pictures to Brandon with a little too much glee in his heart. Mark paused on the last image. His heart raced. The inky sweat broke... An itchy sweat, broke over and out across his back. Good Lord. Read the words, Jay. He stepped out of the kitchen and looked into the shadows and the picture had created. It wasn't quite as dark in real life as it was in the image, but Mark could see that Brandon's office space off the living room was trashed. Dozens of glowing green eyes moved back and forth on top of the desk and from under it. One striped cat chewed on the cord. Two others fought on the top of the desk, knocking the keyboard into the floor and scattering fur and papers. He thought maybe he should break that up, but he didn't know where to begin. Looking back into the kitchen, he noticed not all the scattered dry food was still dry. The water bowl, only the one bowl, was turned over and spilled. He figured he should at least refill that. Another two cats hissed at him and ran away from where they licked at the spilled water. He picked up the bowl and turned on the faucet. A half-dozen cats jumped up onto the counter and fought one another to lap from the stream of water. Mark set the bowl aside on the counter and decided he couldn't get to the flow through all those animals to the water itself. He then walked down the hallway and leaned in to turn on the water in the bathroom sink too. Sharp teeth broke the skin on the meaty part of his hand between his thumb and finger. He jerked his hand back quickly, tearing the skin and sending the attacker flying. 3 more cats jumped from the dark bathroom and swatted at his legs. Mark continued turning on the water in the master bedroom, considered turning on the water in the master bedroom too, but all those green eyes staring out from the bedroom freaked him out. His hand was bleeding pretty badly and dripping on the carpet. Mark clutched it to his chest as he made his way to the front door. Cats came out of every shadow and started lapping at the spots of blood. Mark cursed under his breath and prepared to run, but then a large striped shape passed in front of him from the dining room to the messy kitchen. The full-size tiger gave a guttural, rumbling growl. His mouth dropped open as the striped tail flicked back and forth, still in his view, from around the corner. Before he could process that, a lion with a full mane walked in a circle by the front door, laid down, and stared at Mark over the tops of its massive paws. Mark walked a few steps backward, deeper in the house, before a wildcat scream behind him set him running forward. A cheetah bolted past his legs, giving them a painful swipe on the way. The tiger's massive paws swatted Mark off balance and sent him tumbling over the dining room table. A pride of smaller house cats scattered out of his path. The larger cats, now that the house seemed full of them, weaved under the table toward him. Mark tore down the curtains as he fell and picked up a dining room chair on his way back to his feet with the intention of shattering the glass. He was pulled off his feet and dragged into the middle of the living room where more of the big cats latched onto him. He screamed and screamed, but it did no good as the hungry animals tore him to pieces, staining the carpet from the hair-covered couch to the wall under the widescreen TV. As more and more of the smaller cats moved in to feed too, a lion with blood-stained jowls stepped out of the frenzy, licking his dripping whiskers. The beast took a moment to swat a game system across the room. One by one, the larger cats slinked away and the smaller pets had their fill. Over the next several hours, Mark was reduced to bones, and eventually those were dragged away as well. Late that night, even though Brandon had fallen asleep beside her in a hotel room 3 states away, Sylvia entered through the front door. The only cat in the house at that point was little white Pester. He twinned himself between her feet as she surveyed the damage. "You did fine," she said as she scratched behind the cat's ears. There was a lot of work ahead of her, but the important part of the task had been completed, at least. She left out the damaged toys and the busted game system, but cleaned up everything else. As she ran her hand over the carpet to be sure no sign of Brandon's old friend Mark remained, she pocketed his phone, knowing she would need to dispose of that before anyone found him missing. She thought she might have time since Brandon was really the only one who kept up with Mark these days. Just like many things in life, she knew Brandon would get over his absence in time. She would see to that.